Hey, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. What? Hey, Dave Edwards, Treasure Valley Dave here. And there's some stuff going on in Idaho that I think you need to know about. I think someone's telling you some stories. And stick around to the end because we're going to find out who's really behind all this, or at least in part, because it's a real head scratcher and nobody's really using their head to figure out what's going on. So what's going on? Well, former Governor Idaho Butch Otter, he endorsed an open primary initiative, a ballot initiative, saying that dozens of Republican former elected officials join Otter in support of open primary initiative. So I'm not going to say anything yet. I'm going to let you guys listen to what's going on here and then make up your own mind. And then I'll tell you if you're right or not. All right. So there he is. Oh, no, this isn't a zoo. This is not a picture of a rhino, a rhinoceros, but it could be a rhino. Former Idaho Governor Butch Otter endorsed the open primary ballot initiative. There's a whole bunch of high-profile Republicans who support this initiative. During a press conference on Wednesday morning, blah, 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 Otter and his former First Lady, Lori Otter, were among 116 Republicans who have signed on to endorse this open primary ballot initiative. Well, is this a good thing? Well, yet we don't know, unless you guys have been studying this, but let's keep delving into this to find out if this is a good thing, or if this is the camel's nose under the tent for Marxism to come marching through Idaho. Just saying. Butch Otter spoke at the press conference and said he has opposed closed primary, those mean old closed primary elections for years. So whatever it is, whatever it's good or bad, he's been doing it for years. Quote, "The right to vote is one of the most precious rights that Americans have," Otter said. Well, okay, so also the right to, I don't know, Second Amendment, First Amendment, those might be pretty important too, right? Do you think he's going to sign a ballot initiative to make sure that but he's going to take your guns or take away or stifle your freedom of speech? Oh yeah, well, that's already happening. We're still good on the guns. He said every registered voter should have the right to weigh in on choosing our leaders. Well, okay, and they do. There's no question about that. And they do. All right, Governor, what else? Independents, including a lot of military veterans, have been excluded from having their say because of the closed GOP Republican primary. Well, you know what? I'm going to say he's a big sack of sugar right there. I'm going to put a flag on the play because he's telling you stories. So, in Idaho, this is from the Secretary of State's office. The purpose of primary elections in the state of Idaho is to allow members of recognized political parties to select that party's nominees to go onto the general election ballot. So another big right that we have in this state that, Otter's all apparently big about supporting those rights is the right of free association. So the Republican Party in Idaho is a private group. It can associate with whoever it wants. The Democrats are a private group. They can associate as the party, with whoever they want. They can make rules that affect themselves because people voluntarily join them. It's a closed group. It's like your Thursday night card playing group. You can't have the government come in and start pushing you around because it's your little group. But Otter doesn't care about that damn right, does he? Moving on. There was a federal court decision in Idaho Republican Party versus USERA. In 2011, Idaho legislature passed a bill implementing a closed primary system. So we're not a closed primary. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Persons who are not members of a party may not participate in the selection of that party's nominees. However, Idaho law does allow for political parties the option of opening their primary elections to unaffiliated voters and members of other political parties if they choose. Well, and that's exactly what we have in Idaho. So we're a semi-closed, partway closed party primary election. So here's how you fill it out. Anybody that's eligible to register to vote could register 1, 2, Democrat, Republican, Constitution, Libertarian, or unaffiliated. That doesn't say that, military veterans serving overseas can't do that because they can. Hold it. I was a military veteran. I served overseas. And guess what? I could do this. So I think Governor Butch Otter is a little sack of sugar there, isn't he? At the end of Wednesday's press briefing, Lori Otter said that the mean old closed Republican primary elections have made the party more extreme And the party's state central committee has been taken over by people who are only interested in furthering themselves. Well, I'm going to call a flag on the play on that one, too. She's talking about Dorothy Moon. She's the chair. Dorothy is the chair of the Idaho Republican Party. Dorothy has been a pain in the butt for all the rhinos out there who wanted to have the old establishment, good old boy network. And so what does Lori think about that? She says that if you don't pay attention to what's happening to this party, the party is going to lose its power of everything that the Republican Party stood for. Well, if the Republican Party in Idaho stood for rhinos and establishments and good old boy stuff, then yeah, I'm all for that completely. So she used the E word. Do you remember this guy? Barry Goldwater ran for president. He had this quote, and think about it. Just see if it makes sense to you. Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice, and moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue. Did he say extremism was bad? No. He said extremism in defense of liberty is a fantastic, great thing. So old Lori Otter over here is saying, well, these people are extreme. Well, maybe they're extreme in the good way because they want liberty and Lori Otter wants establishment. It seems. Idaho has closed primary laws since the legislature passed, blah, blah, blah. We talked about that. The closed primary law means that political parties don't have to let voters in who are not affiliated with the party vote. So we already talked about that. But we said that if you're unaffiliated, yep, you can vote. So let's take a quick look at that. So you can, if you're a Democrat and you want to vote in the Republican primary, you can change your registration. Here it is over here, the 10th Friday prior to such a primary election. This is the Secretary of State's. No, this is the voteidaho.gov information. So this is straight from the horse's mouth, or one end or the other. And so 2.5 months before a Democrat can say, I want to vote in the Republican primary, they can change the registration. So why is it 2.5 months? Well, it used to be that you could do it like right away. And we found in Idaho that Democrats would change their party affiliation to vote in the Republican primary and then immediately afterwards change back to being a Democrat. Well, why would they do that? Because they wanted to get the candidate, the Republican candidate that will be the most weakest against their Democrat candidate for the general election in the fall. So they come in there, they vote for, let's say the Republicans are running a really someone that has no chance whatsoever. So all the Democrats, they vote for that person. And there's enough Democrats to do a swing there sometimes, especially with, totally 100% of almost all the media behind it. And then it makes it easier for Democrats to win in the general election. But they can do it. So the unaffiliated people can, they can do it up to and including election day. So if you filled out that card over here and you said, I'm unaffiliated because, I don't know which one to go with or I don't trust them, then you can make the decision on voting day. So that's what you can. You don't. Lori Otter's trying to make it and Butch Otter's trying to make it sound like, well, they're not going to let anybody in there to vote. Well, actually, that's a complete, total, utter lie. They just don't want radical Democrats going in there and screw them with the elections. The primaries. During Idaho's most recent primary election in 2022, only the Democratic Party opened its primary election to voters. Well, good for them. Why? Because Republicans, by and large, they're not the sneaky little sneakies that will change their party affiliation and go over there and vote for a Democrat. And then anyway, there's only 15% registered Democrats in Idaho, so it's probably not even worth the time. But that 15% can be a big swing if there's someone that comes in to split the vote. Ross Perot, Teddy Roosevelt. Gosh, I bet there's a whole bunch of other ones that we could talk about. The open primary initiative. Check this out. This is what Butch Otter, there he is. I was going to make a rhino sound, but I don't know what one sounds like other than, I'm Butch Otter. The Open Primary Initiative seeks to end Idaho's closed primary elections replaced them with a single primary election where all the candidates and all the voters could participate regardless of party affiliation. And then this is another part of it too, is the top 4 go-getters from the primary election regardless of party affiliation would advance to the general election. So it's a top 4 state. Let's talk about this just a little bit more. The same initiative would also change the general election by replacing it with ranked choice. Boy, that's way down in the article too. Ranked choice is evil. There, I said it. Somebody had to. Extremism. Would open primaries curb extremism? This is from Columbian.com. I'm not exactly sure who they are, but they said that high-profile Idaho Republicans, including blah, blah, Butch Otter, Lori Otter, and a coalition of advocacy groups, and they've said it's time to bring civility back into political discourse. They don't like extremism unless it's their own extremism, I guess, like Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. Advocates say the process would curb extremism in the GOP. There again, back to the extremism thing, right? Barry Goldwater. Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. Rather than ensure our elections are safe and secure, Reclaim Idaho wants to complicate our elections with a California-style voting system, Dorothy Moon said, the Idaho GOP chairwoman. And I tend to think that she's absolutely right with that. She said that, in short, Reclaim Idaho wants to eliminate the Republican Party and turn Idaho into a Rocky Mountain San Francisco. She's kind of talking about what happened with Colorado, how Colorado turned completely, well, purple. So the 2-tier system, which Butch Otter is supporting the 4-tier, which is a variation of the 2-tier. So this is something that passed in California with their Prop 14 back in 2010. Butch Otter saying the ballot initiative is modeled after a similar ballot initiative that happened in Alaska in 2020. Quote, he said, the system worked well in Alaska in 2022. Okay, but guess where else that same system's at? It is in California, Oregon, Washington. So over here is our legend. So open primaries, that's where it's just all over the place, exactly like what Butch Otter's asking for. There are these states right here. So we have this blue one. So we have the top 2 tier for Washington and California. And so this is the same thing. They're open primaries, but what the top 2 means is that in the primaries, typically in a primary, you have Republican Party, Democrat Party, Republicans vote for Republican candidate, Democrats vote for the Democrat candidate, and then at the general election in November, you have the Democrat heading off against the Republican. In this system, the one that Butch Otter is completely for is it doesn't matter who wins from what party in the primary, the top 2 or 4 go to the election. So in California, what that means is you have a Democrat running against a Democrat in the general election every single time. So that 40 some odd % of conservative Republicans in California, the ones that have been renting all them U-Hauls, they have no voice in the matter whatsoever. Oh, and I thought Butch was all about, having everybody have their voices heard. No, he's about having his pockets, he's about having his establishment republicanism continue on so he can continue to benefit as he has in the past. Apparently, I'm saying he does pretty good. He's got a better house than mine. So apparently politics has been pretty good for him. Moving on. Oh, it just makes you sick after a while, doesn't it? So I guess that's the end of that story. Dorothy Moon, the chair of the GOP Idaho Party, she has this press release that came out. She said, it is with great disappointment that we address the statement made today by former Governor Butch Otter. Okay, he does have a cool name. I won't deny that. And he looks better in a cowboy hat than I do. But he's a rhino, in which certainly looks like it anyway. Would you disagree? In which he expressed his support for a Reclaim Idaho initiative, the radical leftist push for ranked choice voting, and a blanket top 4 primary in Idaho. This is interesting. The overlap between the so-called Republicans who are endorsing the ranked choice voting initiative and those who support a Democrat candidate in the last year's race for Attorney General is indeed noteworthy. So what's going on there? Well, we had more of a liberty-minded patriot, Raul Labrador, that ran for and won the Attorney General slot, which put the rhinos all in a tizzy. Oh, they didn't like that. So much so that they were supporting the Democrats. Butch Otter, Jim Jones, and others who align with the Democrats and the leftists on this initiative should understand the core principles of the Republican Party, at least the Republican Party in Idaho, are rooted in individual liberty, limited government, and personal responsibility. There you go. That sounds like Idaho. The Reclaim Idaho initiative, as proposed, undermines these principles and compromises the integrity of our elections. That's true, too. And trying to get ahead of this, Idaho legislators, those are the people that are actually voted for by the people. They passed a law in Idaho that said we could not have ranked choice voting. And of course, this initiative that Reclaim Idaho and the other progressive types, whether you call them Republicans or not, are really heartily pushing for. It is crucial to reject the divisive rhetoric. I'm going to say hate. I think Butch Otter hates us. Anybody that's a patriot, apparently he hates us and he wants to do away with us. At least mute our voices, right? We need to reject the divisive rhetoric that Butch Otter uses, attempting to label the grassroots of the party and the Idaho GOP leadership as radical extremists. There you go. Okay, so Butch Otter and the Republican, Democrats, progressive groups, they're all coming out to take away your voice and to change Idaho into Colorado or California. And they're very open about it. I just hope that our eyes are open here so we see what's going on and we take the appropriate actions. Now, here's that thing that I was hanging on towards the end that I'm really excited to tell you about. I'm glad you stuck around for this. Okay, so the Reclaim Idaho, that's come up quite a bit. Who is this group? So here's this Action Idaho. They had a story out last year that kind of talked about some of the people that are in Reclaim Idaho. Reclaim Idaho uses Act Blue to process donations. Act Blue was formed in 2004 to manage contributions to left-wing candidates and organizations. It was used by Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. Reclaim Idaho was given $25,000 by a movement voter, PAC, who says their purpose is to support grassroots groups organizing their communities to build a stronger progressive movement. Also, Reclaim Idaho's staff, paid staff and volunteers are aligned with the left. And then they go on to give various different examples, how they were like supported by the left-wing media. She admired Barack Obama the most. This one worked for the Democrat Party in 2020. She was voted in 2019. The Idaho Young Democrats named her Young Dem of the Year. This person here was a Democrat. She ran for the House of Representatives in Idaho as a Democrat in 14, 16, and 18. And she praised Joe Biden. And they list some more people here. So, okay, that's sort of, it's not direct evidence, but it's, well, okay, it really indicates where their mindset is. But check this out. I just was cruising around on Google. The resume here for Luke Mayville. He's a co-founder of Reclaim Idaho. Let's just look at this. Okay, so Reclaim Idaho, Butch Otter, and 116 Rhino Republicans who come out and said that they want to change Idaho. This is who it is. The group that they're using, that this is the initiative that everyone's getting behind, all those rhinos are behind, is from Luke right here. Luke's CV says that a field of expertise, political organizing, campaign strategy, leadership, recruitment, speechwriting, communication, and fundraising. Sounds a lot like Obama, but there's nothing necessarily bad about what we've read there. But let's keep looking. Moving along, he's got quite an academic career here. Some awards that he got. 2019, he got the Idaho Democrat Party Activist of the Year Award with Reclaim Idaho co-founders Emily Stritch and Garrett Stritch. That sounds like the Democrats really, really like this guy and his group. Let's move along. Oh, he's written a book. What did he say about, he was looking back at John Adams, blah, blah, blah. Today's students of wealth and politics have understood the power of wealth largely in terms of purchasing power. a capacity to buy political influence by bankrolling campaigns, purchasing media space, and funding lobbyist efforts. John Adams, by contrast, blah, blah, blah. So that's what he sees things going on today, how it's done today. Let's see, articles and essays, do something big, how progressives win in rural America. Dang, I wonder if that's not a blueprint for exactly what's going on now. And they got, 116 Rhino Republicans on board to make it happen. Oh my gosh. Let's move on. Blah, blah, blah. Reclaim Idaho powers to prove grassroots wins. Well, it's not grassroots. It's more like what Bill Clinton said, AstroTurf. Or was he describing the back end of his El Camino? I can't remember. Some different courses that he's taught. And he's really into this whole political thing. He's got that down. Some invited talks, big organizing in Ohio. Ohio. At least I didn't say Iowa. Idaho, that's what it is. And it just goes on and on and on. But I think you probably recognize, though, that, good old Luke here, Reclaim Idaho is highly Democrat, progressive. I would, if you were to ask me, I'd probably say it's kind of like seriously Marxist leaning, trying to take us down that road. But so what does all this mean? That means that we need you conservative Californians, Washingtonians, Oregonians, wherever it is that you want to escape, where you can come here and help us put this fire out. We need your votes. We need you to be here in Idaho to help us fight and win. California is a lost cause. They already did this 12, 15 years ago, and they took over California. California has no chance of ever having anything other than a one-party system. And if you're not part of that, interclick to make that work. Or if you're not one of those people that will blindly give your vote in exchange for free money or drugs or a new tent on the street, you need to get out of California because you're just wasting your time. So you need to get to Idaho, fight with us, make sure that these type of people don't take over Idaho and turn us into Colorado, Arizona, Texas. Texas is going this same way too. And we just need you. Get on up here. See you on the next video. Hey, thanks for stopping in and learning more about real estate in Nampa, Idaho and the Treasure Valley. If you'd like to learn more, watch this video here next or binge on this playlist. When it comes time to sell a home, buy a home, or even relocate to the Treasure Valley, your Treasure Valley Dave team is your real estate expert by your side, helping you get home.